what's it in Vietnam? Baht or
Vietnamese dong.
dong? Oh my God, there you go. I'm pretending like I didn't know. I just wanted you to say it, Trung. But
Well, Bilal, here's a joke, right? Here's the joke. Let me show you the screen share here. When I was in Vietnam, I was looking up the BTC price as one does, and I totally forgot I was in Vietnam. So, dude, bro,
I'm a billionaire. Yeah,
read that out.
I can't even. There's too many commas for me, man.
Yeah.
What is that? One, two. What was that? 293.
2.9 billion.
Okay. Well, welcome to another episode of Net Investment Advice. You got Trung Phan, Bilal Zaidi. Jack will be back next week. Trung, welcome back, mate. Great to have you back. And for
unbelievable.
You've been gone for a minute, but people didn't notice. It was quite funny. People really concerned about your back also. Glad to see you sitting back. It's been a few weeks.
Well, we were joking about it, right? Because our recordings were like kind of off. So 1 week.
You're like laying down on the sofa,
and then you're back,
and it looked like you got better, but then really you weren't doing that well.
I can't remember who commented, but there's an amazing reply. So shout out to the text I'm about to read out, or that I memorized. Is like somebody's like, I've been watching NIA so long, like my back's broken. I'm like,
that's good.
like,
people.
Your
been
back's broken. You made
these.
some awful investments. But at least
definitely.
your Spotify playlists are slapping.
That's true. That's
Bilal and Jack be dropping some recos.
Exactly. And next week we'll get more from Jack on that theme, but we'll talk more about that next week.
We'll talk about it next week.
But
Let's tell people what we're talking about.
Want to hear? So we're going to talk about. We got quite a few things to go through. Figma's IPO last week. What happened there? It was a 3x in price. Did you get one share on Robinhood? Did you?
I did not get a single share.
Did you read about this though? Right.
I saw a lot of those.
I applied for a lot more than one share and was given one share, so I was a little bit salty about that. But me and basically everyone else on Robinhood. So we'll talk about that, about retail, how that ties into the whole process. Companies going public again. Also, we're talking about airport lounges. Since you were traveling, we want to hear a bit more about your trip and a little bit more about airports, lounges.
There's been some good lounge discourse.
There we go.
The New York Times had a opinion piece. Is if everyone can get access to the airport lounge, no one can get access to the airport
basically, you might as well be in Shake Shack is the point. And then we'll see if we get to some of these. But Coinbase had an ad in the UK banned. It was actually making quite a lot of waves. I've got like an old English
group chat
I'm in, and like crypto group chat, and people were sending it in there, making jokes about it. So I do want to get your take on that. And then let's see if we get to Dishoom, also on the UK cultural vibe. And for people who don't know, Dishoom is a really popular Indian franchise, essentially now. They're a restaurant, but they've got 11 of them now. They're opening in New York next year, I believe. And they've just been valued at $400 million after this recent raise. And a little bit more about them. Let's see if we get to all of those. But try and tell us about your trip, man. You were gone for, can we say how long you've gone for?
I was gone. Your boy was gone for multiple weeks.
Multiple weeks, yeah.
No, we went to Philippines, Vietnam, and Singapore. Had a family engagement in the Philippines. Kind of built a trip around that, and I want to take my son to Vietnam for the first time.
Incredible. First time I take it, right? I mean, it's a long trip.
I mean, very different. I went to Vietnam for the first time in 1998. I was 13 years old. That was during the World Cup, though, so it was a blast.
Oh, yeah, France 98, yeah.
Yeah, dude. France v. Brazil.
That was one of the best World Cups.
That was one of the best World Cups.
With the baggy jerseys. You remember those?
The baggy jerseys and the very controversial ending. What happened to Ronaldo?
Brazilian
there's
Ronaldo?
Food poisoning. Yeah, and then Zidane
I forgot about that.
Dude, Zidane had
France
2
won
headers.
That, I remember, because Zinedine Zidane, Thierry Henry, Perez, Vieira. There was
Zidane had 2 headers in the finals.
Was that 2000? What? No, I think. No, I can't remember. I can't. I was
Zidane,
quite young. I was 10 years old.
Thurman and Zidane were the main guys.
There you go.
They won in France. But I remember when I went back. So Vietnam in '98 it had only normalized relations with America in 1995. So 20 years after, and it was slowly re-entering the global economy. And I stayed with some family there, and I was living like they were living in the mid 90s in Vietnam. So like I was showering with thermoses of water, right? I wasn't having like a shower. And like, I mean,
Is that
my
with
parents,
the bucket trunk? Is
yeah,
that
with the bucket, yeah.
Oh, that's the
So I
move.
mean,
That's
like,
that.
my parents could have taken me to like, there's still, 5-star hotels in Saigon at the time, not a lot, much more now, but so my son, I took him when he was younger than I did, much younger. But he was getting the Lux experience, right? He was getting a much different experience than I got. And Vietnam in the last 27 years completely changed. And we've talked about this, right? You've been in Southeast Asia. Is like, I think some crazy stat was like in the year 2000, I think Vietnam's GDP was something like, I don't know, this is ballpark. It was like 20 billion. And then Thailand's GDP was like 200 billion. So 10 times, right? Thailand is 10 times larger than Vietnam at the turn of the century. Within 3 years, they will have the same size economy. They will both be about $500 to $600 billion. So
Oh,
that's on
wow.
current trends. But I mean, Thailand. What's Thailand's population right now?
When was the last time you were there, Trunk? Because I'm curious to get your take before and after. Because you
A
were
decade
living
ago.
there, right?
Yeah, a decade. So I'm so happy that you teed that up because that was kind of the main crux of what we are going to talk about here. So Vietnam's in the decade since I left, Vietnam's economy basically doubled. Is it growing 7% a
Damn.
year, right? Over 10
Yeah.
years. That's the rule of 72. So I'll tell you.
What's the rule of 72 for people who don't know, Trunk?
So rule 72 is like if you want to estimate how long it'll take something to double, whether that's an economy or your bank
Your
account.
portfolio.
Yeah, your
is where you
portfolio
might have heard of
is
it.
you take whatever the growth rate is. So obviously, if we're taking my growth rate, that'd be 1% a year. No, if you're taking whatever the growth rate is and you divide that into 72, it'll give you the number of years. So if your growth rate is 7%, you divide 72 by 7, that means about 10 years. If your growth rate is like some of these crazy shit coins and meme stocks that we're joking about, is like 30%, you'll double in like 2 years. But so Vietnam, I'd say this about Vietnam. The thing that changed the most, actually, Bilal, when were you in Southeast Asia?
I think it was 2015, maybe.
Oh, you were 10 years ago.
Yeah, I think it was 2015. Yeah, I'm trying to think. Yeah, it's 2015, 10 years ago.
Okay, and
I
where
went to
did you go?
Japan and Thailand, and yeah, that was it actually. But it was like a month. It was an amazing trip. One of my favorite
it?
trips ever.
Okay, so you actually haven't been in Vietnam yet.
I haven't. I was supposed to go last year and didn't end up going, unfortunately. But we'll try to go. It's like high on my list. It's been
Okay.
really high on my list.
You know I'm gonna hit you with those recos, bro.
Oh yeah, yeah. I meant well. We talked about last year when I was thinking of going, and it was actually I think it was one of my probably the first time I did like a solo trip too. That was the different because it was just yeah. Have you done solo trips before?
Yeah, I've done a couple.
I mean, yeah, that's a different vibe as well, right? It's just like complete adventure mode on. You know what I mean? So
Wait, are you saying early 20s solo versus
well, it was 10 years ago. It's a very different vibe, yeah. But it was good times, man. Yeah.
No, what was I gonna say though is so yeah, here I'll give you 3 layers of differences. Okay, the first layer is just like the layer that people read in the news, and that the second. So the first layer would be what I just kind of said. The economy's doubled in the decade since I've been there. So functionally, what does that mean? Well, a big part of it is that Vietnam has taken a lot of the manufacturing from China, or it's moved to Vietnam, and then obviously with the tariff stuff. This is probably top of mind for a lot of people. Like Vietnam does Apple's AirPods, iPads, and I think a certain percentage of assembly on the iPhones. So a lot of that manufacturing is coming down in Vietnam now.
You used to also do a lot of like Nike stuff, I think, right? I don't know.
A
if
lot
you
of
still do.
textiles. What probably right now, other than Bangladesh, I think it's the top
And
textile.
Pakistan's got quite a lot of
manufacturer.
like similar stuff for
Pakistan,
sports, but-
Bangladesh, and Vietnam does a lot of textiles. Nike, any of these like Hoka, and these outdoor brands. I think Lulu has a factory in Vietnam now. But that was always, that was stuff they're doing since the late 90s. Like the sweatshop joke about Nike was like since the late 90s, right? And the whole point of developing economies is you want to move up the manufacturing curve. You want to start at textiles, and then you want to get into electronics, and then you want to go from like assembling electronics to like some more high-end complicated stuff. But we've talked about it on this show, the issue with a lot of countries trying to work up that manufacturing curve is China is just so dominant that it's very difficult. Like if Vietnam want to assemble, Vietnam's trying to make an electric vehicle, for example. There's a big real estate conglomerate called VinCorp I think VinCorp's the name, but anyways, the name of the car is VinFast, and it's trying to become a global brand. I've seen them in Canada, but it's just not gonna be able to compete, frankly, against BYD from China, and so that's the top level, right? Is more manufacturing is coming. It's just making the country richer. There's semiconductor manufacturing. But I don't really notice that stuff. So the stuff like I personally noticed when I got there. This is more on like the day-to-day city level. One is more visual. It's just a lot more infrastructure, which I know you've probably seen visiting developing places. Things go faster. There's a lot more highways. They finished the subway since I last was in Vietnam or in Saigon. But here's the thing that I think you'll appreciate. The thing that completely changed the most is the internet stuff. It's just the grafting on of Grab, which is their version of Uber. So you probably remember this. Uber was trying to compete in Southeast Asia, but it was just like a knife fight. So they gave up the region in exchange for like 20% of Grab. They did the same thing with Didi, which is the Chinese version of Uber. They're like, listen, we'll focus on the high ARPU markets, North America. In exchange, you give us some of your company for us to leave you alone, right? But Grab, I think Grab is now a $20 billion company. It's SPACed during COVID. But have you ever done, Bilal, what's the joke with food delivery in North America? It's like
that it's a private driver for your burrito.
Exactly. You're paying $40 for a burrito, right? Like that's a joke. Yeah. That's not the case in Southeast Asia though. Like you're getting on-demand delivery, but it's insane.
In your purchasing power, obviously.
Yeah. Well, even my purchasing power, but also I was talking to my local,
even for
my
local,
cousins. Yeah, my cousins, they're like, yeah, we order Grab like every day. I'm like, is it that cheap? So I was wondering, how badly are the drivers getting screwed in Vietnam, right? And the other places I went to, I used Grab in the Philippines and Singapore when on my trip. But then I talked to the one of my Grab drivers. He made a very interesting point, Bilal, and you kind of brought it up. Think about all the tourists and expats that live in these countries, right? Or the tourists that visit and the expats that live there. Imagine you're going to Vietnam and you're taking the cab from the airport to downtown Ho Chi Minh, right? That cab ride on Grab is going to be $6, the equivalent. What are you going to do? You're just going to basically double it and tip the guy, right? You're just going to be like, okay, but $6, let's give you 10. You just doubled his wage. And so that happens a lot. I was talking to Grab guys, like, yeah, like half my clients are like tourists or expats. So it's so weirdly, tourists and expats are subsidizing Grab for a lot of the locals to be able to use it.
That makes sense.
Yeah, but that to me was a huge thing. I'm like, man, if I lived in Asia now, and again, to your point, purchasing power, it was just on demand. It was already on demand, but this is like next level, right?
It's crazy when you travel to like more developing countries. I know Vietnam's killing it right now, and like the way you described, but obviously compared to Canada, US mature markets, when you come back, how does it feel paying $7 for a coffee? You know what I mean? I remember when we were in Argentina and you going out every day, you buying a steak for like $7, like just having a great meal.
Like a delicious steak.
Yeah, fresh, like freshly made, probably better than here. But then you just get so used to doing that. And obviously it's a massive, it's the arbitrage. We're like earning dollars and spending, what's it in Vietnam? Baht or
Vietnamese dong.
Dong. Oh my God, there you go. I'm pretending like I didn't know. I just wanted you to say it, Trung. But
Bilal, here's a joke, right? Here's the joke. Let me show you the screen share here. When I was in Vietnam, I was looking up the BTC price as one does, and I totally forgot I was in Vietnam. So, dude, bro,
I'm a billionaire.
Read that out.
I can't even. There's too many commas for me, man. Yeah. What is that? One, two. What was that? 293.
2.9 billion.
Okay.
But Vietnam. I mean, it was going so parabolic at one time that I thought maybe it went nuts.
What's funny though, Trung? When you travel and the currency exchange is just like, let's say it's a few thousand to $1.
Yeah.
You might be getting ripped off. Like you go to buy like a Coca-Cola in the store, they could be charging you anything. It doesn't matter. Like whatever they show you on the screen, you assume it's nothing. But a lot of the time, they could just be adding a couple zeros and you won't even know the difference.
You
But
literally won't even know, right? You won't.
there you go.
Well,
That's
dude,
why
I mean,
you got to have those alerts set up on the phone, man, just in
wait,
case.
tell me more. What do you mean alert
No,
setup?
just like with your bank, you can have like the,
yeah.
you just spent this amount of money above a certain threshold or whatever. But anyway, so anything else on that, Trung, before we move on to the actual topics? But yeah, your overall trip, obviously traveling with the kid must be amazing for him to see that stuff, see the homeland.
The kid stuff is amazing, right? The kid thing is incredible. But again, it's like 2025 versus late 90s. It's just night and day now, right? And we're fortunate for travel wise, just have at the moment, it's like if you got 3 or 4 kids, it's much different, right? You're probably not gonna pull that trip off, which is what my parents did at the time. Took 4 kids. But the last thing I'll say about Vietnam specifically, Bilal, and you appreciate this, is the dude, TikTok's everywhere. It's crazy, man. It's like they don't watch YouTube. Like under 30s, like they barely watch YouTube. They're not watching local television. It's just everything is on TikTok, and we know how I feel about TikTok. So there's that. And then the last thing I'll say, oh, dude, the other thing I saw everywhere is ChatGPT. Oh my goodness, dude.
Oh wow.
Yeah, especially at all the restaurants and anything tourist related. They're just like they're not using. They're just like everything's translated through ChatGPT. It's crazy, man. It's amazing, it's crazy, man. Dude. But
yes, it's just crazy. I mean, I guess it's the thing about back in the day, like let's say 20 years ago, it would take maybe more than 20 to be fair. Before the internet, it would take time for new things to move across the world and vice versa as well, to be honest. But now it's like as soon as it's available to one, it's available to everyone, and it's just like ubiquitous, especially when it's actually useful. You know what I mean? So.
But you know what, Blood? So this is a larger theme. This is a very NIA theme, and it kind of goes to what we've been talking about in the past. It's just flattening everything, right? Obviously Vietnam culturally and day to day is very different on the street level, but if you're talking like there's still that sliver of society that's traveling and has a similar, like they probably have all the same interests that we do, right? And like we've talked about, it's like the flattening of culture in a lot of ways, which is, and like the thing about how Instagram sends every tourist to the same sites. It's like that whole idea, right? Is like,
yeah, and even just culturally, Trung, if you think of like clothes like people wear or music they're listening to, is so, there's like more people listen to American music everywhere anyway. That's always been the case since it's been empire pretty much. But even here, like I noticed like the UK grime music, like that sort of stuff, it's not like everyone's listening to it here, but there's so much more exposure. And like people doing reaction videos, sharing it with each other in playlists form, right? Versus before, it used to be the radio, so it was less curated in a way. It was almost too curated. It was like playing the same old, playlist over and over again. And now with like YouTube reaction videos, TikTok, obviously with the music that comes in there, that you'll get trending sounds that are like different songs. And I just think, did you notice that clothing wise though, just the way people dress, did you notice that? Does it feel like streetwear, young people are wearing streetwear?
There's definitely, like well, the big influence is Korea for Vietnam.
Okay.
Like K-pop is just dominant in the region,
that's a good point. Yeah.
It's like, I mean, think about how K-pop has succeeded in North America, then assume like in Vietnam, it's like 10 times that, right? It's like obviously a proximity, the look, Asians, and but no, it's right, man. It's like it's a and we talk about how here like culture's fractured, but it also homogenizes, right? It's like there's both. It's such a weird. It feels like a contradiction, but it's really not. It makes sense when you think about it. One layer different, one layer below.
Also, Trung, just really quickly on that, like Japan is a little bit different in a way because they don't really have much immigration. They have obviously a lot of visitors. They kind of do. I feel like they still kind of keep their own culture, and I'm sure Vietnam does in its own way as well. But just in terms of like their influence, like they kind of have their own vibe going, which I always love. Like it's incredibly modern and developed, but they just kind of do their own thing, which I've always respected. Do you find that in the other countries as well? Like, did you say you went Singapore as well?
Singapore and Philippines. Singapore is such a different thing itself, right? It's a city-state. It's like, 6 million people. It's basically Manhattan, right? That's kind of like, so it's its own thing. Philippines is also to your point. Philippines is actually super influenced by America. It's obviously a former American colony, and English is spoken by essentially everyone in the country. And American culture is like they love basketball, they love hip hop, right? They love fast food. Like every fast food again, it's, oh, this is American history. So you brought up Japan, and Japan historically has always been its own kind of thing, right? And it's been proud to do that. It's the only country in Asia that was the least influenced by China over the centuries, and that's because it closed itself off. Obviously you had to cross the waters to get to it, so it kind of had natural defenses. But no, I'd say somebody brought up a great point though, Bilal, and I love your thought on this. Japan had a reputation of being a futuristic country from the 80s, right? But even now, when you go, it is different. But it's different than anywhere else you'll go in the world. But it's what we thought the future would look like in 1980. You see what I'm saying?
Oh,
it's
that's
like,
a good point. Yeah.
It's like it's kind of frozen in time.
Yeah.
Because it obviously had the huge economic crash in the late 80s, early 90s, and they've called it the lost decades, but 30 years of an aging population, kind of a slow simmering debt crisis, and super rich country, but kind of just stuck where they were. Whereas if you want to go see, truly a futuristic city, you go to like Shenzhen, right? Where they've been developing over the past 20 years or so, and all their new technologies are coming from there. But yeah, Japan's certainly its own thing. What was I going to get? Oh, yeah. So that was the last thought, homogenization. And then the last thing I'll say is Singapore. Have you ever been in Singapore?
Yeah, I've been, but I was quite young, so it was a long time ago. And I have quite a few friends who actually moved there in the last few years, and I hear a lot from them. And one of my best friends who listens to the show, actually, he just went there like a few weeks ago or a month ago, and he was telling me basically how impressed he was. And I feel like as an adult with kids as well, with that lens, he said it was one of the few places he would consider moving to and actually living there. What about you?
Does he have a kid?
He does have a kid, yeah.
Oh yeah. Okay. So my dude, same way. My kid loves it. Right. My kid loves Singapore.
Is it Sentosa Island? What was that?
It's Sentosa Island,
yeah.
right? And it's like,
I went there when I was a kid as well. Yeah.
Wait, what?
I think I went 1999. It was basically the first big trip my family took was to Malaysia and Singapore.
Wow.
It was crazy.
Far, dude.
Yeah, it was crazy. I mean, we had gone to Pakistan, and do you know what? Just because it's kind of interesting topic is, like you guys know, like my family didn't earn a crazy amount of money, but it was something they always really prioritized was traveling. And I remember how much it was because I found it on something called teletext. Did you have teletext in?
No,
do you know what this is? It's like on TV. It's like before the internet, really. You would press this button on your TV, and it would be like a black screen. Kind of think of like Yahoo, where you would go to navigate pages, right? So it's like a home page, and then you would type in 201 on your remote, and it would go to travel deals. And then you'd be like, oh, there's a flight and a hotel.
And they're telling you they're like, hey, this is the deal. And then you call up
and then you book on the phone. I remember it was £699 per person. But the reason I remember is because I was the one who found it. And it was for 2 weeks. And it was a flight and hotel. In a nice hotel.
£699 flight and hotel.
Flight and hotel. 6 or 7. I can't remember exactly. But around that amount. And obviously you spend money when you get there. But compare that to now. I mean, it's actually fairly reasonable amount of money comparing it. Like you could go to Spain for 500, or you could spend a few hundred more and go all the way there. Also, my family being Muslim, you can eat the food there, right? Like it's halal meat and stuff like that. And I went to Penang Island, which was incredible.
I've been in Penang. Incredible food.
Yeah. It's actually really popular with nomads right now, by the way. I was looking on Nomad list recently, really popular. So go ahead.
Here's the reason, the inside baseball for you. It's a big semiconductor spot. It's actually it's probably the outside of China, it's the epicenter for AI data centers in Asia right now. And the reason is because Singapore had started taking up electronics manufacturing under Lee Kuan Yew, who we'll talk about briefly. Obviously, the founder of Singapore, former prime minister. Singapore had become so successful with the economic model of Malaysia because Singapore used to be part of Malaysia and then they split. And then Singapore took the reins. They're like, yo, we like Singapore is, this tiny little kind of piece of land in the middle of this, surrounded by neighbors, right? Giant neighbors, and had a contentious relationship with Malaysia, its most direct neighbor, and they had to survive. And so they made all these brilliant decisions, or Lee Kuan Yew did, to become. I mean, literally, the title of his book is From Third World to First World, right? This is the biography that he.
I was about to ask you, have you read that, or
I've
this
read half
Singapore
of it.
story?
It's incredible. Yeah. I have notes here from it, so I'll rip through them.
Because I haven't read it, and I've had it on my like to read list for a while. I'm curious to get your kind of 50,000 foot view on if I was saying like the 3 to 5 things that made Singapore what it is in modern times. Like, what were the things that really helped
I'll list
it
them off.
develop?
I mean, I'll tell you why.
Yeah, I love that.
The fact that you have that book down, I'd actually say it's actually not a difficult read, and the reason it's not difficult is because beginning of the book, he's like, listen, if I was going to do this chronologically, this book would be 1 billion pages, right? He's like, I'm just going to talk about literally the decisions I made around each part of the economy. He's like, economic, trade, political system. So number one was they made English the main language, right? So Singapore used to be a British colony, and Lee Kuan Yew actually studied, I think went to Oxford or Cambridge. He studied law in England, but he's like, if Singapore, what do we have? What does this country have? It doesn't have a hinterland, right? It doesn't have a lot of natural resources, but the main thing that Singapore has is its location is incredible. So it's a trading outpost similar to Hong Kong, and it utilize that. So if you're going to be centering your country's economy around trade, what should you do? You should pick a language for the country that will be representative for what the lingua franca for the world of business is, which in the 60s and 70s was clearly America was a sole superpower. Or no, America was a superpower with the Soviet Union, the Cold War. After 91, it became the sole superpower for a couple decades, and then obviously China now. But English as the main language is a big one. They have a clean and efficient government. So famously, Singapore pays its government officials as much as the equivalent private sector employee would make, right? So it'd be like if you had people, well, in America, it's kind of different, right? You have somebody like Scott Bessent running Treasury Secretary. He's worth $500 million, right? So like, it's like, but you're doing this with like individuals where, take the stock trading scandal for Congress, right? Instead of having that in Singapore, you just pay them what they would have made stock trading, right? You don't give them zero incentive to do that. You want to attract the best into government. And so they pay very well in the government. The other thing they did was they did something called the Housing and Development Board. So this is actually interesting. The makeup of Singapore roughly is like 70% Chinese, 20% Malay, 10% Indian. That was like around the founding, that was the makeup. And the housing situation that Lee Kuan Yew wanted, he did not want ethnic conflict. So he didn't want, and the way he prevented that was he prevented ethnic enclaves from developing. He didn't want like all the Indian people living here, all the Malays living here, and all the Chinese living here. So he had these housing development boards, which is like public housing programs. Majority of Singaporeans live in these government-built flats. And the agreement basically is that those apartment complexes, these flat complexes, would be composed of 70% Chinese, 20% Malay, 10% Indian, right? He's making sure that the living makeup
is integrated, you're saying.
Is integrated. Yeah, he forced it. And I mean, a couple other things I'll say is like, the education system, mandatory conscription. They basically copied the Israeli model. They brought the at the time, obviously there's much more controversial talk about now, but like they brought the ministers for Israel that had developed that program to Singapore to do the exact same thing for Singapore. Same situation,
no way.
Right? Yeah, small.
So wait, sorry, Trump, what does that mean? What did they do?
Conscription, a mandatory conscription.
What's conscription? What's that mean?
Like a year or two of military
serving.
Okay.
Okay,
same with South Korea, same with Taiwan, right? All South Korea, Taiwan, and Singapore have it for the same reason.
Does Turkey have it maybe as well? Is that there aren't that many countries? I feel like
they're not. Well, let's Google right now.
Mandatory.
How many countries have military? Why don't you look that up and I'll finish this thought.
Military service.
Yeah. Another thing, the last thing I'll say, two last things I'll say about Singapore, which were quite smart, was uh, so foreign exchange trading, or becoming a finance center. So obviously the big finance centers by the end of the World War II, and then fast forward to 1960s, was London and New York, right? Like that's pretty standard. Tokyo was on the rise, but Singapore was basically Lee Kuan Yew said we should jump into this because there's a time lag. Basically, what happens with like a 24/7 market, like I don't know, FX, you'll pass off from London to New York, right? But then there's a big time gap if you're waiting all the way again for London to wake up. So that's where like Hong Kong, Tokyo, and Singapore became places where finance could be handed off. 20 this idea of 24/7 finance. So they brought in some of the top economic people from England to help them set that system up. And then the last thing I'll say is the airport is like, do you remember how nice the airport was? You maybe
I think
not.
it was even nice back then. Yeah, it was.
Yeah, it was. So
clean.
Changi Airport. Yeah, it was a very Changi Airport was.
Also,
was
the
one
whole
you went
city
to.
is super clean. Like you can't drop chewing gum on the floor and like.
Yeah,
there was.
well, that was
really,
a famous story where they caned
Yeah.
the American tourists, right? And it kind of caused uproar. But I mean, listen, you're a visitor to this country. Like they have very clear rule. They got fat signs saying "Do not put stuff here." It's like you should respect those signs, right? And but the thing about Changi Airport, Bilal, you're right. It was super clear. It's only that it was probably, if not the first, one of the handful of first airports that was built so the passengers would enjoy the airport. And this is for a number of reasons. Singapore started later in commercial air travel, so it had a chance to pick up all the lessons. But to your point, the other thing is they're just like, we just want a nice ass airport. Is what Lee Kuan Yew's thinking, is because if we're gonna sell this place to the rest of the world, anybody that lands in Singapore has to believe that this place is so baller. So they spent an inordinate
I'm laughing
amount.
because it's like the opposite of JFK, right? Like
Yeah,
you landed
no, exactly,
JFK and you're like,
well, what's the
where did I
joke about
land?
JFK? What's
It's
the
like
joke
coming
of
to
JFK?
America, man. You know, it's
Well, it's like a third world country, right?
yeah. It definitely
But here,
gets
I'll give you the number.
pretty
Okay.
intense.
Singapore's GDP in 1981 was $14 billion USD, okay?
What year was that? Say that again.
1981.
1981. Okay.
Let me see. When did Changi Airport open? Changi Airport open in 1981. Do you know how much money they spent on Changi Airport? They spent 1.3 billion. They spent 10% of their GDP on Changi Airport.
That's crazy.
No, but so like Lee Kuan Yew's like, we have to make the perception of this country for any visitor, any businessman that came here that wanted. If I'm trying to attract Intel and tell them to manufacture semiconductor chips in Singapore, when the CEO of Intel flies into Singapore, he has to be like, holy crap, this is insane, right? So that was the thinking behind it. And that's why 13 years running, I think now, Skytrack has given Changi Airport the #1 airport in the world. It is the you probably don't remember now, but it's different. But like the passport controls is like, there's no traditional gated line. They have the fastest, like basically passportless moving through immigration line in the world for a large airport. And they just built this massive $1 billion shopping mall, that probably the nicest shopping mall at an airport in the world. It was created by Israeli-Canadian architect Moshe Safdie. He's the same guy that did Marina Bay Sands. But yeah, so anyways, there you go. That might be the biggest one. I'm gonna write about the Changi Airport too, because it's not just the airport, it's the road into the city. They spent inordinate amounts of money, the highway going into the city. So airport to downtown, spend a shit ton of money, so people that come and that want to spend and invest will think this is a no-brainer. So I know we just spent
smart, man. Yeah, definitely. What I love about all these examples is so much to learn from for us, like in the West, even just we're on the pod last week. One of the AMA questions was asking us for Jack and I, what if you were the UK government, essentially, what would you do to attract people back to UK? Because right now there's a net exodus, especially of millionaires and people moving because of the taxes. Well, we tried to not answer because we're completely unqualified to do so, but we were basically talking about the things that still work really well. I mean, UK is still great in many ways. Like it's a great place to live for a lot of people in London, especially. It's just, there are some macro level issues that we've obviously talked about on the pod a bunch, and in Europe
which
in
we
general.
still might with the Coinbase ad, right?
Exactly. Yeah. We'll get onto that. Yeah, but Dishoom will single-handedly, bring them out, man. They're generating black dal and chicken ruby, curry for people. So, but anyway, let's move on to the next topic, Trunk, because we were talking about it for. But that was very good. I liked the tangent into how different parts of Asia how they're growing and stuff like that. Did you already talk about Airport Lounge, or do you want to come back to that?
Let's talk about Airport Lounge.
Go on, let's talk about that, and then we'll talk about Figma IPO. I definitely want to touch on that.
Okay, so
friend of the pod, Nick Majuli, wrote about this recently, right?
Yeah, friend of the pod, Nick Majuli. So we'll give a shout out. So first of all,
one of my favorite episodes ever on NIA, by the way.
It's amazing.
Classic, yeah.
So Of Dollars and Data is the name of his blog, and his new book came out, The Wealth Ladder, which is a follow-up, not follow-up. It's different from his first book, Just Keep Buying. So here's our boy Nick. Here's the title. Why don't you read that? What's that title say?
The death of the Amex Lounge, why the upper middle class isn't special anymore.
Okay, yeah. So that he wrote that 2 weeks ago. Well, first of all, I love that, Nick. If you're listening, I love a great photo, man. Great photo on the blog.
I can't see the photo. What's the photo? Because you're zoomed in to the title.
Oh, no,
oh, his photo. Yeah, classic.
No, but here, let me do two things. Let me pull one more thing up. Well, while I'm pulling this up, Bilal, what is your airport lounge experience?
Good question. I'd say overall, a little bit overrated is my feeling. Like I will use them, and because I have a bunch of credit cards that give you access, but they're not really the best lounges, right? Like maybe now the Amex lounge is actually pretty good. Sapphire has a good lounge. I've been in like the BA lounge. The one that I think is actually legit. Have you ever done Virgin Atlantic?
I have not.
That one, I think they have. I haven't been in that, but my friend, he got like a massage. There's like, jacuzzi, stuff like that. It's crazy. That one's pretty cool. But nowadays, you basically get there and everyone's got Chase Sapphire Reserve or Amex, and you get Priority Pass. Is it Priority Pass, I think it's called? And that gives you access to certain lounges around the world, which is a cool benefit. But most of the time you get there and it's super packed. There's a line. And you get in there and it's super cramped, and you're like, "What?"
Well,
and there's like a bit of a shitty
here?
buffet. All right, so when everybody has airport lounge access, nobody does, and that's the summary.
So that's me. I mean, you nailed it, right? You kind of nailed the experience, and like from your understanding, what is the point of the lounge? Like, why do these exist?
I feel like it was. Well, you mean from the business point of view, or the
business point of view?
I guess it's. I thought originally they were based on the actual airlines. Specifically, and they would have like the BA British Airways lounge, and it was supposed to be for first class and maybe premium economy, I'm not sure, probably first class travelers. It was really a way to just to have that more luxury experience, and I would say it kind of has gone in the trend of most air travel in general, right? Like flights have become way cheaper across the board, right, over the last 25 years, let's say, with the introduction of budget airlines, Ryanair, EasyJet, Spirit, etc. And so that has compressed the pricing. And so now you go on a flight, man, and you have to pay to like pick a seat. You pay to be able to put more than just your check. You for a checked luggage, you have to pay and stuff like that.
Right, pay for everything.
Pay for everything.
Everything is buyable, or you have to create so many experiences where people can purchase. Yeah, you nailed it.
So much that even Ryanair at one point were considering having standing flights. Did you see that? That was a real thing as well.
That's incredible. I did not see that, but that's incredible.
That was like 10 years ago, maybe 15 years ago. And I remember sitting on a Ryanair flight with a member of staff next to me, and they had a little briefing where they were talking about that. So
did not sound like the safest.
Yeah. They need to have a privacy screen on their computer. But no, I've seen a clip of the Ryanair founder talking about it on like late night TV, and he confirmed that was something they considered. And it actually, honestly, could actually work. Like if, imagine
short
like
haul.
a bar, like imagine for an hour flight from London to Dublin, people are on the lash anyway. You might as well just let them hit the bar. You know what I mean?
On the lash means
on the
you're
lash
wasted?
means, drinking, they're getting after
Wait,
it.
Bilal, I mean,
Guinness.
if you're telling me I could do London to Dublin for $15 or $20 standing, I'm doing it.
Man, maybe they need to combine like unlimited drinks. Could you imagine what?
Well, dude, if you got unlimited drinks, man, you got to be next to the toilet.
Someone will be flying the plane by the end of
it. Ain't enough toilets for unlimited drinks.
Oh, that's a good point. No, definitely can't be doing that. But anyway, back to your point, Trung. So what is the shift that's happening right now?
So you nailed the high level, right? Everything, the way so many more travelers are flying, and that means there's so many more ways to, sell different segments of the experience, right? And that's from the airport side. But for the credit card side, I mean, it's just a competition for you want those buyers, right? Like you want the guy that's gonna pay what's Centurion, like $550 a year. I'm not sorry, the Amex card to get the Centurion.
Yeah, I think it's around that, and Chase Sapphire is around
like
the same, but it's going up to like 900, which is actually quite a big story in itself.
So like the Sapphire Lounge. So the people that want these lounges are paying whatever $500 to $1,000 for the annual fees. These are the most valuable credit card spenders, right? Although a lot of these credit card companies are being subsidized by people at the lower income, getting hit with these crazy fees and not making their payments, so they got to pay the interest. But you want the guy that has the Amex or the Sapphire that'll spend $100,000 a year on his card, right? So like you got to give them a reason. You want the business travelers. Like this is not new, but that was a competition. But this is what Nick's point was. So Nick's whole point was just the growth of the wealth ladder. His new book looks at. He basically says there's 6 levels of wealth. Okay. But we're only concerned ourselves with the first 4. So the 6 levels of wealth are level 1 is under 10,000. Level 2 is 10,000 to 100,000. Level 3 is 100,000 to a million. Level 4 is a million to 10 million. Level 5 is 10 to 100 million. Level 6 is 100 million plus. He's like, we're not going to concern ourselves with level 5 and 6. They're not flying commercial. The people at 100 mil, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
10 mil plus.
They've at least got like a share of a private plane.
On net jets. So he's talking about level 1 through 4. So he's just pointing out that the growth of this level 4, the 1 million to 10 million net worth, it doesn't look huge here on this chart, but it is material. And same with the level 3, which is 100K to 10 million. These are the Sapphire and Amex holders, right? And
wait.
you said,
say that. Well, I would say lots of people in level 3 as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Is that what we said? 3 and 4, right?
Yeah, 3 and 4.
I probably honestly had it when I was in the lower level.
Level 2?
yeah. I was probably falling out, man.
Trying to flex on them, right?
There you go.
But he's just basically shown, if you actually look at the level of the population, it's material enough that, right, on that chart, it doesn't look huge, but we're talking about the population percentage of households. So if you have an extra 1,000 households that, or it's called extra 5,000 households that have reached this level of wealth, dude, those are that's 20,000 people traveling, right? Those lounges are not big. That's why you're waiting 20 minutes to get them scrambled eggs, son, right? There's so he's making a good point. It's you don't actually need a huge change in the number of households because it's so finite. We're talking about airport lounges, right? These are not large spaces. I mean, some of them are getting larger.
Yeah. But Trung, I mean, I didn't read his post on this, but I feel like a lot of it is not even just that, because for people who aren't in the US especially, you don't get the same credit card, competition in other parts of the world. That could be a fun fact fan in itself about airlines and points and stuff. But basically that even the Chase Sapphire Reserve, let's just say it's 500 a year, 300 of that you get back in travel related purchases. So let's say you take any Ubers, buy a flight, you get that refunded. So it's 200. And most of the time, a lot of people are signing up. You're getting 50,000 to 100,000 points in a sign-up bonus, which is worth what's that, like $500 or something like that as well. So that's the thing. When I did it, honestly, I was kind of joking, but I was 25 years old, moved here. I can't remember my net worth at the time, but it was probably in the earlier stages, right? but I could afford. I
It
could
was
afford
level.
to do
It was level 1 or 2.
yeah, -1. No, it was. But you know,
No, I was definitely level -1 for a long
there
time.
you go.
When I was
Yeah, we all
debt.
been there, man. Yeah, definitely. But all jokes aside, I wasn't really thinking, oh, is this in proportion to my net worth? I was like, oh, this is a $500 card that I get 300 back in, and I get enough benefits from $200 that I'll do it. So to me, and then you feel, oh, I've got this access to this lounge. When you're 25, 10 years ago, you're like, actually,
I mean, it feels flexing.
feel
It
good.
feels like you're flexing on them.
yeah. And then until everyone's going, and then you're like, actually, this is no longer, like you said, exclusive at all. So yeah, then there's like layers. Then there's, oh, actually, I'm going to get this lounge, which only comes with, you know, first class flying or whatever. Because there are a lot, honestly, the best lounges normally aren't on priority pass, right? Like these are kind of the generic places with like.
Dude, you don't even know. They don't even tell you where the best lounge.
Yeah,
best
they're
lounge.
hidden.
Yeah, they're probably in like one of those sketchy looking newsstands, and then you open the fridge and it opens like a secret door into one of these lounges, right?
We'll say 1 in 10 times I'll hit a lounge. I'm like, oh, this was worth it. This was pretty decent food. There's a shower if you've been like doing a long flight, you're doing a layover.
Well, Asia,
you got to get some work done. Yeah, go on.
Here's the arbitrage. Here's the arbitrage to that opinion article and everything you've said. Just go to Asia. Everything in Asia for a Western traveler is like a North American. It's night and day, right? Is the amount of so much excess labor in those countries that you can get a lot of service.
What sort of lounge were you going to, man? What's going on?
Dude, let's keep it PG. This is my family, man.
But no, anything else on that? Definitely want to. I haven't read Nick's book, but I did see him do some interviews, which were pretty cool.
Did they talk
Worth
about that?
checking out. Well, he was talking more about his new book and the different levels to the game. So yeah, I would actually question how many of those people going to lounge are millionaires. Honestly, I guess you were saying level 3 and 4.
Well, think about it. What is it? Let's just call it 1,000. Let's say you get in the chase.
But what's the percentage of US? Let's just say the US. I think we've seen that those numbers have come out. I think it's like 10% of people are millionaires or something. 10-15%.
America.
Maybe more. Let me just see. Percentage of.
Yeah, 7%. So 7-ish. 7+.
What year is that from? Because that sounds lower than I thought.
18% of households.
Households. That's what I'm thinking of.
Yeah.
There you go.
So that's
8 to 10% of people. 18% of households. That
because
sounds
now you
about
could
right.
combine husband and wife, right?
And also, if you think honestly, the last 10-15 years, the stock market's been crazy as well.
Ripping.
This is also measuring in fiat money, Trunk. So this is, I think we really need to ask.
In Bitcoin, everyone's a thousandaire.
Exactly. Yeah, we got to ask in who's a whole coiner. That's another measure.
Wait, you guys got.
There we go. Yeah, no, that's definitely interesting. Anything else on that before we move on? I do want to talk about Figma.
Yeah, let's do Figma quickly.
And
I mean, how long are we in here? How far did we go?
We've been like 40 minutes, I think.
Yeah, let's do that, and then let's talk about. Actually, you know what? We got Figma. Let's do Dishoom.
Let's do that. Trung, real quick though. This was actually related. Sorry, I was going to share this on my screen. 1 second. This is related to what we just discussed. Because on the flip side to more millionaires is this, which is, you saw this going around, right?
Oh yeah.
So this was going super viral online. For people who are listening, which is most people, there's a graph here charted which says estimated percentage of 30-year-olds who are both married and homeowners, plotted from 1950 to 2025. And the TLDR is 1950. It was about 50% of people were either, is this either or both?
Both.
Who both married and homeowners. So
which obviously reduces the percentage,
reduces
right?
significantly,
Yeah.
right? But 50% of people owned a house and were married, right, by 30 years old. Now in 2020, what's that, 10%? Less than 10% or something like that. Right, so about 10% of people are married or homeowners. So it's a massive decrease. And there was also this chart that showed, obviously, the difference in as prices of homes have gone up. We've obviously talked about the pod, 1970, the median has gone up significantly. And the household income has obviously not gone up as much. I just wanted to share that because it's kind of related to what you were talking about, because on one side, you've got more people basically becoming millionaires on paper. and then you've also got this big trend.
Well, they
going
don't
the
have
other
a
way.
family and a home because they're busy paying Sapphire.
They're going to the lounge, son. You know what I mean? Yeah. But no, that was again. I don't know the source of this because someone responded saying like that he jacked that post. But what, anything on that, man? That is kind of a wild number still, though, right? 10% of people.
I mean, I'll be very honest. That's the dark. That's not good for society.
Yeah, that's
not good. I'm not gonna blame the boomers here, but I'm just gonna say a lot of assets were tied up. A lot of people benefited from the greatest bull market in multiple assets in history, and maybe holding on a little bit too long instead of helping out the next generation.
Well, the other thing is, I would love to see that cut by each factor, like married and homeowner separately, because I think it's like anything numbers. It's like you take two things and multiply, it becomes a lot less. But obviously, it's consistent across the board.
Even like you said, the number it's a comparison. 1950 was still 50%. Right?
No, it's a massive change. All right, Trung, talking of millionaires, I'll tell you who isn't a millionaire after the Robinhood debacle last week of Figma's IPO. No, it was not a Robinhood problem at all. But let's talk about the Figma IPO. Was priced at, was it $32, $33, went all the way up to 125 or something like that within a few days. Now I think it's down a little bit. Let's talk about what happened. So it's back down at
87. Man. Yeah. So it went public at like you said 33. That's about 20 bill. It got all the way up to what was it 115? Something crazy, right? I think the 85 bill. Right now it's at 42 bill, which is still twice what Adobe tried to acquire it at.
Yeah. But, and so what's your opinion on this? Because I guess what happened, I mean, I'll explain for people who aren't here. Robinhood has IPO access. Have you heard of that? Have you seen what this is?
Does it come with the member?
I think it's gold. It probably comes with gold, I think. And essentially, when there's an IPO happening, sometimes they get an allocation, and it's they lock in a price, and you can express interest. And so, like in my case, I did express interest, and I was like, okay, I'm willing to put this amount of money at this price. And then they don't guarantee you're going to get it. And obviously, lots of people did this. It was oversubscribed. And most people got like one share, it looked like. So it was, if you asked for 200, 500, whatever, you got one. And I was almost like, man, just give me 0 instead of 1, because it feels like, it's like, you might as well, why are you tempting me here, And then you see it go up that much, and you're like, okay, at least my inclination was correct. And, wasn't able to make it rain on them. But
the jokes were incredible with the one share.
Yeah,
I remember a friend of the pod, Alex Cohen, got one share. He asked for 30, got one. He's like, I don't know how you guys do this 9 to 5 stuff.
yeah, exactly. Well, the other thing is, have you used like second market, like Nasdaq? Nasdaq has a second market thing.
Oh, Nasdaq primary market.
Yeah,
that's what you get.
And I was looking at
Nasdaq. Yeah. I know.
So for a bit, you can buy, before companies go public, there's like secondary market for shares and stuff like that in private companies. So the popular ones on there are like SpaceX, OpenAI, obviously Figma and stuff like that. And most of the time for those companies, I'm not subscribed to it just to keep an eye on stuff, but once in a while you might see something you're interested in. I did see like a big order the day before for Figma, and I was like, okay, this feels like,
did.
Well, someone was trying to buy it. It was like you basically express interest.
The order was in. Did it get filled is another question.
Yeah. Also, if you have like private banking with like Goldman Sachs, they were like giving it to, they had access as well for this kind of price. And I was kind of interested, but I was like I didn't care that much. I was like, whatever, let me try it out. I did speak to some people who work there, and I think they have like a 6-month lockup, I'm pretty sure. So that's kind of common.
At Figma?
Yeah, and again, this is just anecdotal, and again, I'm assuming, and that person I'm thinking of doesn't work there anymore, so maybe it's because of that was from way in the past, I don't know. But I guess that stops people from dumping on the first day or the first few days. Yeah, so it makes a lot of sense. So what's your take on this, Trung? Because a lot of people are talking about this around kind of like retail being exit liquidity. Was the price correct? Did the bankers underprice it where they could have, priced it a bit more accurately, given that it was so oversubscribed? There's also comparisons to like Circle early in the year and a few others that were kind of oversubscribed and popped a lot in the first few days. So yeah, just curious on your take following this from
I
the
mean, yeah,
outside.
that's the Bill Gurley talking point that you see all the time, right? Is like his whole point was that, as you said, these the pricing on these IPOs that lead to the pop, like the history behind that is not great for retail. And what he means by that is like retail is getting kind of shafted in the sense
Yeah,
of,
dumped on really. Yeah.
yeah, it's dumped on by, because what's happening is these IPO underwriters, say Morgan Stanley, Goldman Sachs, there's literally like emails from the late 90s being like, we should engineer pops to like make our clients happy, right? It's like you make high net worth individuals or insiders at the company. Well, not necessarily insiders at the company, because the company itself is getting kind of screwed in the sense of they're leaving money on the table. That's the other thing people say, right? Money's getting left on the table. Like
For the company, right? Meaning they
for the
could have
company.
raised more.
Like if they priced Figma to match the demand, Figma would have raised another $1 billion, right? So Dylan Field actually, though, the CEO, founder of CEO of Figma, it was either him or his team actually explained to Bloomberg why it was priced the way it was. Essentially, a lot of the large institutional funds would only agree to do large chunks of the IPO. And, these institutional funds are long-term holders. So they would only agree at a certain price. So that's, there's a lot of tensions here. It's like, if you want a big anchor investor, whatever, call it one of these large pension funds or a big banking fund that will hold on to technology stock for decades, right? It's not going to just trade in and out of them. They might be like, actually, we want the pricing. This is how we want it. We believe it's worth. If you can't offer that, that's fine. We're just not going to invest in the IPO, right? So there's a lot of different reasons on these trade-offs. But Bill Gurley, famous benchmark a VC, I think he left benchmark, retired now, maybe just on some boards, but not actively investing. This is like his hobby horse, is like when tech companies have IPOs, he believes they should just do direct listings. So Shopify, I don't know, Spotify did a direct listing.
Spotify did that, yeah.
Yeah. And a direct listing basically is you're not selling a big chunk to the market. Like you're just offering shares to the market from the team itself. And that price is in a much different way, right? And his whole point is, it prices properly, money's not left on the table. There's none of this engineering a pop. And all right, so the retail part is a kind of a separate question from the Robinhood one, which is, the Robinhood one is kind of funny. It's just they only have so much allocation, right? And these hot ones are coming through, like CoreWeave, Circle, and now Figma are I think the big IPOs you'd say in the past, 6-12 months. And the retail question is more, Amazon, as an example, went public in 97, I believe, at $400 million. When
that's
Amazon,
million with an M, Trung, yeah?
Yeah,
Not
million
billion.
with it, 97, May 97. And it's obviously
And what
worth
did
now.
Figma just go in comparison? What was it, 40?
It closed first day at 60 billion.
60 billion, yeah. Okay,
Yeah.
so massive difference, yeah.
Yeah, and it's this question's come up with like Coinbase and Uber and Airbnb, right? And even like, I think Facebook went public at around 40, 50 bill. Google went public at 25 bill. Microsoft, 500 mil. Apple at $1 billion. So like, you were seeing what's happening here, right? It's a trend, right? These private companies are staying private longer.
Yeah.
And it's because private markets are so much more efficient now. There's so much more money in the private markets. That's the real retail question is, I mean, what beggar are you going to get out of holding Figma, right? Made 10x? Maybe. It could very well. But that's very different than obviously Amazon, what is
thousands of
500xing, right? 1,000xing, right? So retail is missing out on the opportunity to invest in private companies, which is actually a lot of this tokenizing stuff is, right? Like Robinhood was tokenizing OpenAI, SpaceX, and by tokenizing, they're literally just creating tokens that were tracking the price of these private companies. You had no ownership in the company, right? So like, there's questions around whether or not these are securities, that whole rigamaroo, but like, that's the retail question.
Yeah, well, I would say that I think, because if you think now we're talking about from the individual investor's point of view, basically retail getting dumped on with my one share, right? Like I was 3x up on my $30 share, don't get me wrong, but it was little bit of a just give me zero vibe. But there's also from the entrepreneur or the businesses side, right? So like that's to what you said. I think a lot of people want to stay private for longer because they have more control and they're getting enough. Like I think the original incentive to go public was both a liquidity event for the entrepreneur investors and then also the liquidity to then grow. They actually needed the money to, for infrastructure,
to be able
hiring,
to tap markets, right? To be able to tap markets.
Exactly. Whereas now people are raising hundreds of millions in private
billions,
markets.
Dude.
Billions. Yeah, sorry. And because of that, they don't necessarily need that same access. So yeah, it is quite an interesting. I guess there's two parts of it. One is the tokenization, what you just said there, Trung. But there's also this idea that retail should be allowed to invest in private companies, or the ability for them to do so shouldn't be such a high threshold. Right now, in the US anyway, you need to be accredited investor, which I think is $1 million plus in net worth or 250K a year in income. I think the thresholds are, maybe it's 1.2. I've forgotten the amount.
Matt Levine from Bloomberg has a great line. He's like, you should let anyone invest in a private company, but all they have to do is sign a piece of paper saying, this is a very dumb investment. If I lose all my money, I'm not going to blame anyone, and then just sign.
Yeah. Though I would see it as like that's terms and conditions that no one really reads and really accepts.
But that's literally what it should be. It's like it's literally one page with 2 sentences. I want to invest in this.
Yeah.
This is a dumb investment. I will not get mad at anyone. Sign, right?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I guess that's. Yeah. So
Bilal's not sold on that one.
No, I mean I will say, having seen some really bad decisions, including myself in the past, just like. I think there should be a higher threshold, in my opinion, for demonstrating sophistication of an investor versus, because right now it's a very blunt measurement to say if you earn 250K or you are a millionaire or whatever the threshold is. Well, just
like a dentist, he's got loot, right? And just
exactly. Or like to say it goes both ways. I think someone below $1 million in net worth could also be very sophisticated and, really doing their own analysis and want to bet on something. But anyway, so that's a whole different topic. Was there anything else on that on Figma before we move on for the last?
No, that's good. I'm happy to end on Dishoom and this UK question.
Why don't you tell us about Dishoom, Trung?
Well, I've never been, so give me more.
Well, yeah, from what I know, I've been there quite a few times. Really popular Indian restaurant in London, and I think are they in other locations now outside of London?
They received an investment. 14
locations.
Yeah,
but a lot of those are in London. I don't.
Can
think
you tell us? Is it good? It's
good. I like it, and as someone who's like native brown person, I will say it's genuinely good. It is like not. It's not like you're going there for the authentic. It's pretty authentic. Like it's real Indians. It's not like some random people, making Indian food.
Just say the word. Just say the word. No, it's not. It's not a bunch of Vietnamese people in the restaurant in the back there.
Yeah, something
Vietnamese
like
and Latinos.
No, and I will say the vibe is great. Like you go in. It's actually based, I think, on a old like Bombay cafe. Is the style.
So
it's
not necessarily
more
Western,
eclectic.
but it's like it's open to
anyone. And if you've been to those places, they're kind of like all day restaurant cafes, and it's actually a lot of like Iranian influence. Like there's like a bunch of different cultures coming together in that environment. But they've just done an amazing job. Like the place looks sick. The food is really, really good. They've got all these like kind of famous dishes, but also you posted about the.
But hold on. What is the famous dish?
Well, my favorite is the black dal, which is just lentils. But I would rarely just recommend dal because like Pakistani people, it's like dal is like the cheap basic food. Like when you come home from vacation, you might have dal chawal, which is rice and lentils. It's like the basic, just back to basic sort of vibe. But their black dal is banging. It's probably just because it's got mad butter in it. It's very good. But everything is pretty good there, to be honest. I like it. It's not like my favorite Indian restaurant in the world. Like there's probably others that I prefer, but it's one of those places that even my American friends who visit the UK, they get told, oh, you need to go check out Dishoom. And I would still recommend it. It's pretty fun. But what I didn't realize was, because my friends who were at Google and YouTube back in the day, they had a channel where they were doing like food reviews and stuff like on YouTube, and they did an early one with the Dishoom guy.
Dishoom.
Yeah, I think they only had maybe 2 locations at that time, and they were absolutely killer in the storytelling. And I looked them up, and I just assumed it was just like a standard Indian dude who's a good chef, and maybe he's got like a business partner. No, these guys are like MBAs. One of them, I think, went Harvard Business School.
A Carver one of the, let's pull it up. One of the co-founders.
I think they're brothers or family.
Yeah, he's a Harvard MBA from 1999. Did Oxford PPE. So
there you go. That exactly. Yeah. So, and that's what it was, to be honest, because being more like a working class brown person from the UK, I was hoping just in the romantic story of it to be someone kind of like me. And there's nothing wrong, like good for them. Like they've done an amazing job.
No, but I mean,
but
still.
They're like PPE, like PPE for people who don't know is like what the prime ministers do, right? So like normally if you're in that, you probably had like pretty good, pretty rich background, which is great. But I was also like, no, it kind of makes sense. Like their style of making it was very like MBA. Like they looked like they did a SWOT analysis of the Indian restaurants. Like you've got Brick Lane, you've got these people here, you've got the takeaways, and we need this own this category.
No, Bilal, what if it was though? They just want that black lentil dish and like, we can't get a good one. We can't find a slapping. What's it called? Black dal?
Black dal, yeah. Dal makhani, I guess, is what it's probably called.
But so
and
Bilal,
I will say in London, Indian food is really good.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of competition, and there is actually a lot of high-end Indian restaurants too. So this is kind of like
dish?
Well, tikka masala, right? So you've got all the levels. You've got the takeaway, £10 delivery sort of vibe. You've got, the restaurant you go and sit in that's more authentic. Maybe you pay £40 or something like that. These guys are probably like a slightly elevated version of that. They're quite affordable, but it's not like cheap, right? It's like a well-priced place. Then you've got like the high-end Michelin level Indian restaurants, like tasting menu for £200 vibe as well. So you just get all the levels to it, and they've done an amazing job of finding a category for themselves. And so it looks like they raised a bunch of money in private equity, and I think they're now worth $400 million according to friend of the pod Shiel. Desi on
L
Twitter.
Catterton, a private equity arm of LVMH. So that's backed by Old Matey.
Bernard Arnault, yeah.
That's his. Well, so Bilal, so we've teed it up. Let's end with something that you've actually experienced and that I had tweeted about was they have a thing, right? A Harvard MBA guy figured a way to make happy hour work. So happy hour, as everyone knows, is a way to get people in a restaurant at off-peak hours. How does Dishoom do it, Bilal?
You posted about this. They have this dice game or whatever. Like you roll the dice. I think if you get a 6, you get a free meal. Is it? I think. Yeah, that's what it was.
Your entire bill is free.
Yeah, that's what it is. Yeah.
Well, so Bilal, let me ask you though. Have you rolled the dice?
I have with my friend who goes regularly because he lives right next to, or he used to live right next to one in King's Cross. And I remember going, and I don't think we got it, but it is this like excitement of like, oh, we're going to get, because you kind of go in there, you're willing to pay, obviously. And I think at the time I didn't know they had that. Because maybe you have to have like a club membership or something.
No, it's a loyalty membership.
Loyalty program, okay.
Literally, you just ask. If you ask them.
Oh, you just sign up for it?
Yeah,
oh, okay.
Yeah.
So why don't you talk about the economics behind that? Because that's quite interesting.
Have you hit it?
I don't think I've hit it, no.
Okay. So this is a shout out to Rory Sutherland from Ogilvy.
Rory Sutherland's phenomenal, by the way. He's
very, the
very
one
good.
that I picked this up from, and I think Ogilvy might have actually helped Dishoom come up with this.
He's like an OG British advertising.
Yeah, he's
guy,
a hitter.
Right? Yeah, hitter. Very entertaining guy as well.
Well, so here it is, right? As to Bilal's point, Bilal, what is a typical happy hour discount? Like what's a good number? Like buy one get one. That's 50%.
Yeah, buy one get one, or buy one get one half price.
You're talking 30 to 50%, right? Like that's to get people in the door at off-peak hours.
In the percentage terms, yeah, that's a good point.
Exactly. So Rory Sutherland's whole point was, imagine Dishoom was telling people, hey, listen, if you dine before 6, you get a 17% discount. No one's walking in the door.
That's a good point,
is not right. It's like
it's too specific. You're like whatever.
No, but it's just like that's not even a good discount. It's not like you'd expect a happy hour discount to be 20, 30, 40, 50%, right? Like legitimately. But rolling the dice, what is the expected value? I know a lot of NIA people here listening.
So
What is the
divided by
expected
6,
value?
17% or so.
Exactly. So it's like
16.7.
it's effectively a 17% discount, which is dog shit compared to most happy hour deals. But
Yeah.
because it's gambling, because we're all degens, like it actually really works. That's what Rory was saying. Is like the numbers are for Dishoom are like materially makes a difference on the hours that they want. The restrictions has to be before 6 p.m. and a maximum table of 12. So it works. I don't. This is my takeaway. I don't know why more restaurants don't do this. It's just
No, it's
are
very
more
smart. You're right. And it's just the idea of instead of just a percentage, you're turning it into something that has an equal percentage off that you can account for the cost, but it's way more fun. And then also, do you know what people do? They take videos and they post it on Instagram and whatever.
Earn media, right?
Very
like the one
smart,
I posted.
man. It sounds like a Harvard MBA with a international marketing minor in his degree did it or something, you know? Very good.
No, but there it is, man. That was my takeaway.
Great way to wrap it up, mate.
Yeah, the great
very
guys.
good. No, I would recommend if you're in. Did you go when you were in London? You didn't go?
I know, but I will. I do want to go now.
You were only doing shawarma when you were there.
Yeah, I was only doing
and
shawarma.
McDonald's. Yeah. Anyway, thanks for being everyone. Tron, great to have you back. Hopefully next week should be all three of us. And we will tell you where Jack was later, but should be a fun one next week as well. Hope you guys enjoyed this. Let us know in the comments what you thought on YouTube. Is great. By the way, heads up, little PSA. Telegram's group is great. I love people in there. It's not the best for comments because there's like these two groups set up. It's kind of like a bit buggy. So if you post in YouTube, it's better because then it sticks to the or Spotify because then we can see it with the actual episode number. So it's sometimes I get a message and I can't remember when we talked about this. Anyway, hope you guys enjoyed that. And we'll see you guys next week.
Thank you so much, guys.
Cheers. Bye-bye.